Hello, everyone. My name is Vaduna Volva, and I'm here to talk to you about panic attacks and how to deal with them. First of all, I just want to say that this is my personal lived experience. I've suffered, and sometimes I still do, from panic attacks for a long, long, long time, and I really had to learn how to deal with them correctly and how to treat them. I am not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychiatrist, so don't take my advice for medical advice. All right, now that we've got that clear, how do you deal with panic attacks? Well, first of all, let's start from why they happen. So, panic attacks are literally the system going into complete panic, and it's an overwhelming type of sensation. It's a flooding of some sorts. But this flooding wouldn't happen if there wasn't something blocking it. So, what I've observed inside of myself and in other people as well who suffer from panic attacks is that these people um, have had a childhood in which their emotions were suppressed, invalidated, dismissed, and minimized. So, things like, oh, you shouldn't feel this way, oh, you're making it too big, oh, this, all of these little phrases that tell you that you shouldn't feel this way, that what you're feeling isn't valid, that your emotions shouldn't be there. They create a state of panic inside of the system, because what we have to remember is that little children, they can't regulate emotions. They can't self-regulate. They learn to regulate their emotions through co-regulation with their parent. Basically, the parent regulates the child's emotions for them. And this is how a little child learns to regulate their own emotions growing up. And it takes years. The mind develops at around 7-8 years old, and that's around the time where they can start to use their mind to find ways to regulate themselves. But it's not actually possible before that age. So you take a little child who's getting traumatized and whose emotions are getting minimized by their parent, and treated as not important, as in general, not important, or even worse, and this is the most common pattern, that they shouldn't even be there in the first place, because the child is being dramatic, they're acting out, they are trying to control the parent, which is obviously absurd. So in this type of situation, the child is left alone with their emotions, which is already a state of incredible distress for the child. And on top of that, on top of being left alone and abandoned in these emotions, in a situation where their nervous system is literally learning to regulate with their parent, and thanks to their parent or adults in their lives, they are left alone, abandoned with themselves. And on top of that, they are taught that what they feel, they shouldn't be feeling. And this creates an internal state of incredible distrust. What happens then? This child grows up and they haven't learned to be with the emotions, to see them as valid, and to learn the information that is contained into every single emotion. So after this kind of theoretical overview, let's bring it back to felt experience. So I've had this kind of childhood, and what I've learned for myself is that I have panic attacks whenever I am in periods of my life where I am not attuned to my emotions and I'm basically suppressing them. Because what happens is that emotions are like a flow, they're like a river of energy. And suppression is literally like trying to cut that flow, but the flow, you can't control it. Like it's a river of energy. So what happens when you try to close it is that the flow gets even more intense. And this is what happens with panic attacks. You're trying to close or control the flow of emotions, saying, oh, I will be with this tomorrow, or I don't have time for this, or it isn't that bad. Basically, we tell ourselves all of the things that our parents said to us when we were children. And in doing so, the flow of emotion is tapped. What happens then is when there's a crack, they come out with great force. And this is what a panic attack basically is. It's a very strong emotion, obviously more related to fear. But as I said, fear is at the top in a way of the emotion. It's basically become the baseline experience for the person that isn't in touch with their emotions, because they have learned that what they are feeling inside of themselves is not important, is not to be listened to, and it shouldn't even be there in the first place. So what's the deal with panic attacks? What do you do if you have panic attacks? So you need to reverse this whole cycle of dismissing, invalidating, suppressing, and minimizing. What you do is you start to get back in touch with your emotions. So emotions, they are felt experience. They happen in the body. We have this idea that emotions are in the head, or I don't even know what we really think about it, but emotions are felt experience. So they happen in the body. Fear, panic, they can happen as buzzing in the body, as a sensation of constriction in the chest. Sadness can feel like a sinking experience, like energy leaving the body. Anger can feel like a lot of energy moving, especially in the arms and in the legs. You need to learn what emotions look like for you in your body, because not everyone has the same experience of their emotions. So what do you do when you have panic attacks? You close your eyes and you feel into the emotion. So right now I'm feeling a bit stressed. I've had some coffee. I feel nervous. I feel nervous, but in a positive way. And I know this because this part of my body is low buzzing. I feel like my energy is all up, 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 up. So when you feel the emotions in the body, you just need to recognize them. That's all you need to do. You just need to recognize them, listen to them, and name them. So, of course, I have a lot of experience in doing that. So for me, it is very fast. You may not also feel a lot of sensations in the body. You may be numb. If that is the case, you need to train yourself to feel your body, to not just stay up in the mind, but to go down in the body and feel the sensations of the body, because those are always linked to your emotional state and what you really truly feel. But when you suffer from panic attacks, the work is to reverse everything that your parents have taught you and the society has taught you around emotions. So you need to learn to validate your emotions, to be with them, and to really internalize the fact that they are important and they are there to help you, to give you information, and to be on your side, be by your side. This is a lot of work of releasing all of the resistances that you have to feel. So I know of people who have told me that sometimes they stay with their emotions, that they kind of like give themselves the time because they want to get rid of them, because they want to be over them. So this is like a little bit like a parent sitting down with the child being like, okay, finally tell me what it is, so that I can go and fix it, because I don't really have the time, the patience, and the willingness to be with you. This is not helpful, obviously, because it is a state of resistance to the emotional state. So the work here is really to release any resistance to feeling, to emotions, and to learn how to validate them. This can take years. So it is valid to have resistances and problems and difficulties with it. It took me years to get to this place, and I still feel like I'm in resistance to my emotions sometimes. So don't worry about it. What I did with my panic attacks was literally realizing that I was suppressing my emotions, that I was actively suppressing them and not really taking the time to listen to the guidance that those emotions were telling me. And mind you, sometimes we also take emotions from the outside, but this is more for people who are a little bit more advanced in that kind of journey. So again, let's recapitulate. A person who suffers from panic attacks has suffered from a childhood where their emotions were minimized, dismissed, and taken for not important. Or even more, the parent and the people around them taught them that they shouldn't even be feeling the way that they should. This creates an internal state of resistance and distrust. And the internal state, the internal world, learns to be in a constant state of low anxiety, and when it ruptures into panic. Because when you feel a certain way, but you shouldn't be feeling that way, you see, you have nothing to work on. You can't really work with that. There's nothing that you can do. It's a state of very, very intense powerlessness. This is not reality. You can always do something with emotions. First of all, you need to feel them. So how do you feel them? You get in touch with your body. You sense the sensations in your body. You name them. And by doing this again and again and again and again and again and again in your life, your internal state starts to relax, because it knows that whenever there's an emotion, a sensation present, there's gonna be a response to it. This is how we become the parents of our inner child that our parents were not for us. And this is how we reverse that state of panic into a state of relaxation. Staying with the resistances, I would argue that is the most important aspect of this whole work entirely. Why? Because when you work around all of the resistances that you have in your body and in your being, in your mind, to feeling every single emotion, because every emotion has a very important value and content, and they have a very important role in the ecosystem of emotions inside of ourselves. When we release resistance to feeling every emotion, from sadness, from joy, you can have resistance to joy, mind you, to fear, to anger, and so on and so forth. When you don't have any resistance to feeling emotions at all, and you don't suppress them, you express them, you don't suppress them anymore in any way, shape, or form, you don't even need to do this process, because an emotion will come up and basically disappear in the span of 5 seconds, because you will have become so attuned to your emotional state that an emotion comes up, you immediately respond to it, and it can go down because the information that it contained is being received. And emotions and that information can both be about your internal state or the external state. So if I am in an unsafe situation, my body is going to be feeling unsafe, and is going to be feeling fear and anxiety. And this is not about something that is happening inside of myself necessarily, but this is a message that my body is telling me about the environment, about the outside, what is happening outside of me. And in doing so, we learn to escape, respond, or do something about ourselves so that we don't feel unsafe anymore. When we have this response, okay, so why do I feel this way? I feel this way because the person is making me feel unsafe. Okay, what can I do about it? I can move, or I could have a conversation with them, or I could just get away, whatever. I could ask a friend to take my hand so that I can feel like I'm not alone anymore. When you have this habit of feeling the emotion, recognizing it, listening to it, and then responding to it, your state is not as responsive, and you won't need panic attacks anymore, because those panic attacks are your internal state saying, I am not safe, and I'm not even safe with you. So you need to become that person who takes care of those emotions. And when you do that, you will learn to take your level of low-grade panic and anxiety to a very, very low level. So another thing that I want to say is that for myself, right now in my life, I've learned that listening to emotions is an active process. It's not just that passive releasing resistance, because then that becomes like a passive thing, like it happens passively. I've released resistance to my emotions, to my sensations. I don't have to do that active listening, processing anymore. I still do it, obviously, but it's not as required of me. But then there's an active part which always needs to be present, in the sense of like we are so accustomed to a society where emotions are minimized, repressed and suppressed, and everything that I've said before, constantly, that we can start to adapt again to that society. So in my life now, I try to take an active role in listening to my emotions at any time. So whenever I realize it, or whenever I don't have an active emotion inside of myself going, I take a second to attune to myself and to name it, and to see if there is some emotion feeling it. This creates a very, very, very stable sense of internal safety, because that means that you're not only going to value emotions and value being with your emotions when they are actively screaming for your attention, but you are going to give them attention even when they are not asking for that. That means that you are communicating to yourself that you care about how you feel at any times, and you're making it a priority. And based on the information that your emotions give you, you are going to take action to actually take care of them and make yourself feel better. So that's all I had to say for today. I hope it was useful for you. I've decided to. Thank you. I'm on the balcony, so there's random noises outside. I've decided to do this video because in the same week I had 2 people calling me on the phone asking me on how to deal with panic attacks. So I figured out that I had lived experience and information that could be helpful to you. If you want to be in contact, I'll leave my contact information in the description. And yeah, I hope we will see each other soon again. Thank you for listening, and I really hope that this was important and useful for you. Have a good day.